Hi, welcome to the Filmmakers Live. Hi, Sarah. Hi, Leo. Long time. If you are looking to learn how to get your film career going, this is the right place to be. And we always like to talk to filmmakers about how they actually got their careers built. And so today I'm very, very excited to be introducing you to one of my fabulous clients, who is Shigeto Sayama. And we'll get to how he and I met, which is a really fun story. But welcome. And I don't do a bio on my podcast because we start way at the beginning. And my first question that I want to ask, that I always ask, is when did you first know that you were a filmmaker?
Wow.
Start with the hard ones.
I think I think when I started to realize that I was first a filmmaker, in my commercial career, during my career, building myself up as a commercial director, and I had done quite a quite a lot of work by that time, and I was starting to question whether what I was acquiring in skills and experience through commercial making was actually being used for something to represent a voice or a story of my own. And that was really when I recognized and realized that, oh, maybe it's time that I considered myself a filmmaker.
It's so funny that you would have a career directing commercials and answer the question that way,
Hmm.
right? Because did you go to film school?
I didn't know. I went to a law school.
Law school? I
Yeah.
don't know that.
I know.
You were, okay, so how did you get into making commercials?
So I went to so I did an LLB course, which is a undergraduate law degree at a university in London, in a place called UCL on Gower
They have
Street.
they have all these funny acronyms in England.
Yes.
Excuse us.
And but as I started my law degree, I quickly realized that law wasn't really for me. I come from a very traditional sort of Japanese background where my father would say that, either a doctor, engineer, or lawyer. So
That's right. That's right. Immigrant families, you get three
yeah, yeah, yeah.
choices.
So my brother went to medical school, pre-med in the States, and I stayed here and I did law degree, and I quickly got bored. And so I was doing some translation work because in those days, I had no AI, no Google
Right,
Translate. So I
right.
had some legal knowledge that's virtually fluent in Japanese and English. So I was doing some translation work at an agency, sort of translating legal documents from English to Japanese, Japanese to English. And it was paying quite well. They used to give me £1 per word, which is a lot at the time.
Wow.
But it would take ages, you can imagine. Two, 3 pages of documents would take weeks sometimes because, they come back with red inks and I'd have to redo it again. And it was horrible. And it was that time when I received a script. It was a commercial script from that agency and asked me if I'd be interested to give it a crack translating it. And I said I would. And I translated it, and I got called in by that production company. And at that time, the World Cup was being held in Japan and Korea. And yes, so London had a lot of, and David Beckham was getting popular, and there was a lot of exchange between Japan and England in those days. And so they asked me if I'd be interested to work for them. And I wasn't quite sure. I come back from a traditional family. Of course, I had all these wonders about TV. I'd loved TV and I'd loved films all my life, but no one in those days, especially, had any idea of how people got into the industry.
That's right.
So I got called in.
Hasn't changed.
No, unfortunately, no. And and then I got called in, and then into a meeting room, a very fancy boutique. In my view, like a workplace had to be like a company square cubicles kind of thing. But the
Right.
place was in Soho, and smack down in the middle of Soho, and this very fashionable boutique office. I went into their meeting room, and they showed me their work, and their work had all these celebrities on it, like Catherine Zeta-Jones and George Clooney, and I was just blown away. I said, "You guys did this? You guys work like this?" And yeah, it was to them, it was normal. So then that's how I got into the industry. As
But
right,
why would they just pick a director off the street and have you direct a commercial? Why would they do
well,
that?
they did. So I started working as a runner. So I started working as a
Ah,
runner, making coffee and doing the
yeah.
dues. But I remember I had a T-shirt with a and it says runner across my shirt, and on the back there's a telephone number of the producer, and as a joke it says, "Call this number if I'm not running." Yeah, it was ridiculous. But for me, I had an advantage because I was virtually fluent in two languages, and this has
Ah,
always been a blessing for me.
yes, yes.
When I'm working with an English director or English staff with Japan, then instead of all the other runners would not even be allowed on set, but I would be on set next to the
Ah,
DP. I'd be next to the director or speaking to the actor, translating for them,
right.
interpreting scripts, and I'd even be allowed to go into the editing suite or the color grading. So I had a sort of a front
Yes.
seat into the sort of best areas to listen and to learn. I mean, I
Hmm.
sound really diligent now, but I wasn't at the time. I had,
You weren't running. In fact, you weren't running.
I
And
wasn't.
they needed to call you on that shirt.
I think so. I think so. But I did that for a while, and
Wow.
yeah,
So it's still really what it sounds to me like is really the way that the film industry tends to work, which is as on a sort of apprentice
yeah,
basis, you know? And that's what it sounds like. You get to apprentice somewhere and learn the field and work your way up. That's very
absolutely.
much how film works.
I think so. Like for me, I had peers who'd gone through the film school process, but he and I have both agreed that working in these environments been the best sort of film schooling that we could ever get.
Absolutely.
We don't understand it at the time of why we were told off, for example, certain things that we did, why the producers were being the way they were to me, to us on set. But later on, I realized the importance of that apprenticeship that you mentioned. And it stays with you because in some ways it's traumatizing the way that they crush you down on set, they break your ego, and they really, you have to really be submissive in some ways to listen to the way the industry works. And
Mm.
there's so many, especially in the commercial industry, there's a very strict hierarchy of, the clients, and then the advertising agency within the advertising agency, and then there's the production company. So there's a very strict hierarchy there. So we were trained with great discipline.
Wow, interesting. So, how long did it take before you sort of graduated from apprentice and runner and all of that, and clearly translator, interpreter, to directing your first commercial?
I would say, well, I started running and doing that in my mid 20s. And I believe my first directing gig was, I would say, wow, late 20s, I would say. It took me about
Mhm.
5 years, 4 or 5 years, I would say.
Mhm.
And even that was too early, as I later realized that I think I jumped the gun. I don't think I was truly ready to be directing, but I was just so eager to get myself out there. And as vain as as vain as it sounds, I was just so eager to be accredited as a director. And it meant so much to me in my young, you know, overzealous heart. I needed that respect. I wanted that credit. And I feel that I should have and I could have stayed learning a little bit longer because I ended up making a lot of mistakes, learning a lot of things through difficult mistakes. And I learned a lot of things the hard way.
Um, Before you directed, did you get a chance to be writing the commercials?
Yes, I did.
So the commercial came before the directing the commercial.
That's right. So I went from being a runner to a PA to a production manager to an assistant producer to be given a strange title. I think it was a made-up title because they headhunted me back to Japan. One of the companies headhunted me because they landed a 2-year contract. A confectionery company in Japan landed a 2-year contract with David Beckham. So they desperately
Oh,
need someone. And they try to headhunt me, and I use that opportunity to say, well, you're going to have to give me a title that is worthy. So they gave me the weird title of Head of International Productions, which didn't exist. But I was very happy to show that off to people, and I was so happy to give name cards. But that just meant I was given a credit card, unlimited sort of Black American Express credit card, and I was supposed to take people out for meals and take them out for a drink afterwards. If it's in Japan, we go to like hostess bars and things like that, and just make the agency people comfortable. And because those were the times when the advertising industry was the golden ages. I would sit and I would listen to creative directors and sitting with a producer of the production company and the kind of conversation they would have. For example, the creative director would say, "Hey, I've been wanting to go to Saipan or maybe Hawaii. I'm not sure. What do you think? Do you think we could come up with a creative idea to maybe go there?" That's the kind of thing we had, like almost unlimited budget. But then that a lot of that,
wait. So I just wanted to say,
yeah,
would that title today be business development?
I would think so. Yes,
Yes,
I
yes,
think,
yes.
yeah,
It's also when I went to China a few years ago with my father, he went to buy tractors and he had done impressed the hell out of me. He had researched these different factories that made tractors, and we went to a small one, a medium one, and a gigantic one. And each factory, as soon as a plane landed or as soon as we got out of the car, had somebody meet us whose job was to be the English speaker and take us on a tour of the factory and take us out and wine us and dine us.
yep, that
That was
sounds
it.
about right.
The bosses weren't there. They didn't speak any English. The
Yeah.
owners weren't there. But I realized, oh my gosh, if you have a degree in English in China, this is your job.
You are. And it's basically what they call it. If it's in production, they usually call it as production coordinator.
Uh-huh.
And, so you're like a client servicing essentially.
Yes, yes, yes.
And,
Client liaison.
and I didn't like it. I enjoyed it. I enjoyed it for 1, 2 years because I was under the impression that I had this money, you know,
Uh-huh.
but I didn't have anything in my bank account. Nothing. I had this card and that was it. And I could buy branded clothes and whatever. And I was hanging out with celebrities and all that. And I thought I made it, but I felt so empty. I really did. It
Wow.
wasn't for me. I mean, I'm sure there are people who are very, very good for that, but it wasn't for me.
Yes.
And
Yeah.
so I asked to be transferred to a creative writing department.
Mm,
There, I started to work under a creative writer. And because I was initially brought up in production in the UK, and UK has always been, and I think it still is, has a certain edge, I feel, in
yes.
commercial work and commercial ideas. I mean, they have one of the best creative directors here in the UK. I'm sure it's the same in the United States, but so my primary role at that time was not to win pitches by writing commercials to the clients. My role was to shock the clients with ideas that was totally outside of the box.
Uh-huh.
So
Uh-huh.
you don't have to win anything. They would come and tell me, your role is not to win. Your role is to shock. The more ridiculous your work, the ridiculous your
Wow.
writing, the better.
Wow.
So I thought, okay, well, that's kind of cool. So I started to do that. I did a lot of crazy things, and I would always get a laugh, or I would get a little shocking look, and I'd done my job.
That's it. That's fantastic.
Yeah.
That sounds hard to do to me. That sounds like a lot of creativity there.
Uh, well, yeah, but I actually, at that time, I think I was much, much more outside of the box then than I am now, actually. So, in those days, when you're young and you're very carefree, and if they tell you you don't have to win anything, and you're like, okay, fine, whatever then. So I'd come up with the most outrageous ideas, and so I had a good run with that, and then I had a few senior directors in the company, as well as those were working freelance to that company, that found me interesting because of some of the writings that I had done,
Hmm.
and started to take me on as their assistant directors on set, and then so that's kind of how I got into really
Right.
understanding direct.
It's so the apprentice path. It is so,
Absolutely,
and it used to be, in the Middle Ages, that was the only path to get a job.
sure.
And it took 5 to 7 years. You were an apprentice baker or you were an apprentice, whatever. There's there's these very famous what is it? The something cycle of the plays and all the unions. They didn't call
Right.
them unions, but they all got together and they put these plays on, and it was like being in a culture, being in a society. I think today, being in a union, and
Hmm.
you worked your way up, and that apprenticeship system kind of left England, I think, by the time I was a kid. But in Germany, they kept going with it. And in the film industry, that's it. You know, it's unusual for people to not go through the apprentice system.
Yeah, yeah. And I think without sounding like, like an old fart, I do I do feel that I feel that some of the apprenticeship may be too long and not necessary.
Uh-huh.
Like a
Uh,
good, healthy sort of, I don't know, 4 or 5 years of apprenticeship does wonders for you in the long run. Sure, you don't get that immediate gratification
right,
as I was chasing of
right.
becoming a director, but it certainly does pay off in the long run, and you have a much longer life. The
Yes.
longevity of your career is totally prolonged by that apprenticeship.
Very, very interesting. Very interesting. So do you remember what that first commercial was that you said you made a lot of mistakes?
I do, I do. It was for a mobile phone commercial, and it was actually for the Hong Kong market. It's for a company called I think it was called Smart Tone. Smart Tone, I think it was called. And it was a mobile phone. At that time, it was like a shell mobile phone. And I was working with the head of JWT, which is a massive advertising agency, as you know, J. Walter Thompson.
Uh-huh.
And this creative, the executive creative director, the ECD, which is the head of the creative department, was an Englishman. and I think he's back here now. But he was the creative director, and he basically let me do whatever I wanted for that commercial, and so I did. But it was strange. I had no idea. Once placed in that position, suddenly, okay, do your commercial. I was just so I had to just fake it, fake everything, and just put things together. Of course, I had gone through the stages of writing, and I'd seen
Uh-huh.
the editing. I'd done some
Uh-huh.
editing myself as well, but oh, I was not ready, and it was chaotic. I had an art director that left the set on the day of the shoot because she was so upset at like how ridiculous some of my requests were, and I think I still have it. I have to look for it and send it to you. But
My gosh, that would be so fun to see.
yeah, but I wrote it, and I wrote it. It was quite revolutionary at the time about portraying a supermodel, well, supermodel or a model wannabe, basically finding her fashion sense through the phone that she has. And she has like a breakdown. She breaks down during the shoot. And so it's basically me breaking, well, I'm portraying a female protagonist breaking down on set as I'm breaking down on set. And we went through like an overnight shoot. I think it was like a 2 overnight shoot. By the end of it, like everybody's dying. And I had no idea some things could be done in post-production. I had no idea some things should be done in color grading, can be done in editing. I had no idea of this, nothing. So I tried to do everything on set,
Right.
and then, the whole thing of the director's dream of saying cut and action and okay, move on. This was like my thing. And
Did you do this a
I
lot?
did. I think I must have done that a few times. And I had no idea what this meant either. I had no idea what this. So I went everything into it through a very sort of vain, form first, no depth whatsoever. But hey, you know what? But then the creative director, the ECD, I can't remember his name, but he was such a lovely guy. He saw something in me, I would say you know, a raw talent, if I may be so bold to say that. And then so
Yeah.
he picked me up. He gave me a few opportunities after that, and then
Yeah.
he knew by that time that I wasn't as experienced as I had put myself out to be. You know what I mean? I was exposed.
Oh my gosh, this is so funny. Um, I often would say to my clients after they made a film, and I'd say, "How did it go?" And they'd be, "Oh my God, this."
Petrified.
And then I would say to them, um, "Was there fisticuffs?" I learned the word fisticuffs from, I think, the movie Oliver Twist.
Okay.
I think it's from Oliver Twist. They talk about, oh, fisticuffs. Oh, no. Anything for you, dear. Anything
I
for
know.
you. And would you climb a tree? Anything. Would you do anything? And then he says, what? Fisticuffs? And I think that's the only place the word exists. But anyway, I'd always ask them, was there fisticuffs?
Right.
And they'd say, no. I'd say, oh, good then. It was good.
There's a lot of fisticuffs on mine.
There were.
Yeah, I think so.
Oh
uh,
my goodness. What? Fisticuffs? That's really fantastic. And I love imagining you as this like very vain person trying to, pretend that you knew what you were doing. I really love because that's not like that's not who you are, who I know you to be at all today. But
I
that
hope
that
so.
stuff got burned off you, I
I,
guess.
I think so. I think so. It did. It did. It really, I had to go through a certain, I mean, it was, I think, to going from someone or to assume a role in such a vain approach, going
Mm,
from really, I mean, as I may have touched upon, I got into the industry because of Catherine Zeta-Jones and
yeah.
Penelope Cruz and George Clooney, those kind of A-listers, seeing them. For me, I was like,
Yes.
oh, these guys are above the clouds. I want to be in this industry because I want to work with these famous people.
Right.
So it's so vain. And then I got into becoming a director because I wanted that credit for myself. I wanted respect. And
Yes.
so when you go into something like that, it's really you have to go through something really spiritual, and in order to come out of that vanity, and then to become okay again, and to become one with yourself, so to speak, I think.
Right. Right.
Yeah.
Well, some people do,
Yes,
and
yes,
most people don't.
yes, you're
But
right.
that's what you're describing to me sounds like the Greek concept of hubris.
Okay.
That hubris is that ego, that vanity. And like in Shakespeare, for example, my favorite Shakespeare play is Coriolanus, which is not a terribly well-known play, but it's about this famous warrior, and everybody just worships him because he's so fantastic. But that hubris will always end up in Shakespeare, you get taken down. I'm not sure if that's the way it works in real life, but
It does. I think it does.
because we seem to see a lot of hubris around right now. Um, but but for Shakespeare, that hubris will always lead to either tragedy or
Mm,
great comedy,
yes.
either way. But in all of Shakespeare, that hubris is going to lead you to becoming a much more right-sized human being,
Yeah.
whether whether it's learning how to laugh at yourself or whether it's becoming dead.
Yes. Yes. You're right.
Yeah, yeah. But another way is to find a spiritual path out of it, which is your path,
I
in
think
my
so.
guess.
Yeah. Yeah. I think so. Like, it's a difficult one, and I think people. I think the current generation with so much access to information and so
Yeah.
much access to guidance. I mean, they're confused with so much information, but like for us, it was the lack of information. We
Mm,
had no information. We kind
mm,
of had
mm,
to go into it blind. And so
mhm,
if you were stained by all these toxins of sort of vanity that has built on top of each other.
mhm, mhm,
I mean, I look back at the first sort of, maybe 10, maybe 10, 15 years even of my career of how unconscious I was. And what I
mm,
mean by that is that I'm always out there, always out there, always out there, always caring. That's all. There's never a chance for me to really truly sit and listen to what I wanted to say or what I want to do. So what I mean by that, how it translates to commercial working is that the moment you get a job confirmed, you jump into the onto the YouTube, or in those days I would go through the shots video and I look for references and I think, oh, what are other people doing? What are other people doing? So I just start putting
oh,
all these references together and think, well, that shot looks good. This one looks good. I want to do that. I want to do that. Watch a movie, listen to music. I never sat down and then really reflected on what is this campaign about? What is the client asking for? What is the
uh,
creative concept that is driving this commercial? I was just so superficially needing and wanting to prove myself to be worthy, to get another job. So it was like a Frankenstein of everything put together. So I think
Interesting.
it reflects like that, and I find that to be such an incredible thing with filmmaking in any, um, I think any medium, whether it be a feature film, a narrative documentary. I think commercial making, music videos, whatever it is, mate. I think it's so reflective of who you are,
Yes.
and or who you're not. It's so reflective.
While you were still making commercials, did you come to a point where that you had that shift where you really did look for what the client wanted and provide them with that? Yeah,
I do.
yeah.
And I think that's really when my career picked up.
Oh, wow.
And I didn't know that.
And was that also the same path that took you to the place of, oh, I want to tell my own stories?
Yes.
Yeah,
Yes.
yeah, that makes sense.
It was, I think it was, I would say so I did commercial work for, I think, just over 20 years, I think.
Hmm.
And in the last, and I did over maybe 200 commercials, some music videos and things. And I feel in my last 5 years, I think of my career as a commercial director, there was a point where maybe 5, 6 years, I started to have my, I would say, a personal belief regarding what I was selling. Because I started to reflect on what the commercial was truly about and where this was leading to. I started to care very much about what I was actually getting myself involved in
Mm,
advertising. And it's
right,
not too simply as cliche as to say, oh, I'm just selling things that people don't need. Well, that's not fair because I
right,
think that's not really for me to decide.
right,
But for me, there were certain products or certain brands or certain sector that I just couldn't agree
right,
with
right.
personally after I had children. And I thought,
Yeah.
well, I don't want to be a part of this. And so I started to very politely decline work because one of my mentors in commercial work told me never ever reject work. If anything, give them an unreasonable proposition that they have to decline you, but you never decline. So I would decline work via that method where I would give, for
Uh-huh.
example, an impossible fee or an
Right,
impossible schedule or a terms or condition that would force them to say, well, we can't work with you this time. And then I would
right.
always recommend another director friend and I say, oh, I know this guy, he does this kind of work and he does it really well. And
Right.
so I started to do that towards the last, yeah, I think the last 5, 6 years was very, very selective for me.
Yes. And then I love to tell the story that so I went to high school in little part of South London called Sydenham, and I got this email from this lady who worked at the school who wanted to connect with alumna, and I was thrilled because they would have somehow I got on the email list years ago, but they would have some events, but they were always in London, and I live here in Miami, and so and she reached out to me like on a personal level, and I was so thrilled. And she had me do a career day talk for the girls, at my old high school and that. And we got to talking and we really hit it off. And then one day she said to me, my husband's a filmmaker. I said, no way.
That's
And she
right.
said yes. So she arranged for us to meet and we started working together.
We did. And that was what, really about 2 years ago that was, wasn't it?
Yeah, yeah. I'm not sure. I'm
Yeah,
never good at time, so
yeah, I think so. And I've always found there to be a milestone in every sort of I can almost count how many milestones that I've had in my career and sort of having that moment with you on that day. I still remember having that first chat. I was literally in Sydenham walking outside. Do you remember? And I was saying, I see that street, I see that road. That was a real milestone for me. And
What do you remember of the conversation that made that impact?
well, I think, this is very interesting. One of the milestones that I've had in my I'll get to what was the milestone for our conversation, but before that, like for example, one of the milestones that I had in my commercial directing was it'd been after a few years after I had that total breakdown on set, and I was starting to do okay. I was getting my commercials made quite smoothly. I was getting moderately popular in the industry. I had my commercials shown on like Times Square equivalent kind of monitor, and I was feeling great. I was thinking, oh man, I made it. I'm young and I'm getting paid, and then I had one of the agency producer introduced me to a very experienced veteran executive producer in Hong Kong. And we met and she asked to see my show reel. So I showed her my show reel. And there I am, I'm thinking I'm all that. I'm dressed in all my branded clothes and looking all hunk and yeah, let's go, right? And then she just stopped the show reel. I don't even think she watched it halfway. She just stopped it and she said, I'm not impressed. And she just looked at me straight in my face. And I was like, I laughed because I thought she was joking. And she wasn't. And she said, I'm not impressed at all. And I said, well, okay, okay. I was like, okay, then screw you then. So I kind of, there was a real animosity. And she said a few things after that. And so I just went out of there, stormed off furious. And I had been shattered. But then I think it really broke me in some ways because it was true. My work wasn't impressive. It wasn't. I really don't think so. And the way that she said, I look at you, the way that you dress, you have your spiky hair and tan skin and all that, branded clothes and all that. I don't see any of that in your work. So I went back. I was just so furious, and I couldn't sleep for the whole night. But then I reflected, and a few days later, I called her back, and I said, I want you to take me on as an in-house, and I want you to teach me. And she said, if I take you on, there's going to be a significant pay cut. You will not be eligible to the percentage that you would usually get as a director fee. But are you okay with that? And I said, yeah, I'm okay. So I went. And I think that was a milestone for me because she really changed the way that I approach filmmaking. And it took a lot of courage for me
Oh,
um,
yeah.
to do that. And I think in similar fashion, I think when I spoke to
That's one of
you,
the most courageous things I've ever heard, Shigeto.
but I think it was similar to when I spoke to you,
Oh,
like to me, like, well, I don't mean it in that way, but the way that you were, and there's that whole as a
I so apologize.
no, no, not at all, not at all. But here I am, I have 20 years experience on set. I feel that I'm ready. I'm here and I'm thinking I'm deserving of opportunities because I've done my dues, I've done my time, I know what I'm doing. I should be getting a film. Come on, right? My script, I should be getting my film made. What's up? That's the kind of approach that I had. But I didn't. I didn't have those made. And it was one foot in, one foot out. I was still kind of doing, oh, I should do commercials sometimes. I should do filmmaking sometimes. I didn't even know what films that I wanted to make. So when you asked me, what are the kind of things? What are the film? What is your script about? What is it about? I had no answers for you. I had finished doing a few short films by that time, and which immediately I covered up by saying, "Well, it's just a little passion project." And I remember you saying, "Do you know what passion project means?" And I said, "What?" It says, That's another word for bullshit. So I was like, okay, fine. And but then, I had a similar feeling.
Oh my God, I'm so mean.
I felt exposed. I felt exposed, and I need that. I need to be exposed. And you said to me, are you like, she asked me something along the way of, do you think you're a filmmaker? Or something along that line. And my answer was incredibly ambiguous. You
Mm.
are a filmmaker the moment you say you are a filmmaker. So are you a filmmaker? I was like, wow. Yeah. But then I thought, yes, I am. I am. And from there, I still had my one foot in, one foot out for a while, for about a year, where I went back and forth, struggling, trying to find time for filmmaking, but then doing commercials at the same time. But I really took that decision after a year and thought, you know what? There's no plan B. I can't have a plan B. This is a full-time commitment, and I have to really get my act together and do it, you know? And just so that was a milestone. That's why it was a milestone, because I got broken again.
People always think I'm nice. You know what I mean? It's like
Well, nice in the long run.
nice in the long run. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
And I don't always talk like that to people. Um, but I guess that's funny because that term passion project really triggers me.
Hmm.
And the reason it triggers me is because I hear people who are very talented, like yourself, basically putting down their work and they don't realize that saying passion project is doing that. Um, but it basically is not so much that I was saying it was bullshit. I was saying you were saying it was bullshit,
Yes.
you know, and, and that no, we don't do passion projects. We do things that we work our asses off to get done
Absolutely.
and at the highest, absolute highest possible quality. And and then we have to also add in the raising the money to do it, which is really hard work, you know?
Yes.
And yeah, that's not a passion project.
No, no. And I think that's the thing about commercial making is that I think the beautiful thing about commercial making is that it's almost like, I have nothing against independent schools or state school. I don't mean it like that. But like recently, I had a chance to visit Eton College
Oh yeah,
and, their campus, and it's massive. And I mean, commercial industry in some ways is you are put straight into like an Eton College where you have unlimited funding. You can play with whatever equipment you want. I say, oh, I want that lens. I want that anamorphic. I want this camera. I want 3 cameras on set because I have a celebrity. I got to do this. I got to do that. You do all that. And then you get to a point where you're basically just being spoon fed of everything. And it's so difficult. And at the
that
same
is
time,
a killer for
it is,
creativity.
it
That
is
is
a
a
killer.
killer.
It is a killer. And you
Wow.
become so obsessed with perfection because this is what commercial industry is it is an
Right.
obsessive compulsion for perfection, perfect framing, perfect lighting, perfect way that they call it in Japan, they call it the sizzle shot, where for example if you're shooting a beer or shooting liquid or food, you spend hours crafting this perfect moment, perfect
Yeah.
speed, perfect lighting, and you get trained to do that. But then what
Yes.
happens is that you become like that to yourself. And like
Right.
you rightly pointed out, I remember so many times when you've said to me, okay, you have your pitch deck, your budget sheet, your schedule. Can you send it to this person because this person wants to see it today? And I'd write back and say, Joanne, can you give me a few days so that I can refine it? And then you say, no, now. And I would say no, because I'm that kind of person. I can't even take a photo on my phone and like send it to a friend before I color grade it and reframe it. This is a disease. This is like a mental
I
illness.
remember saying that to you. I remember saying perfectionism is a disease, it's an illness.
Oh, it is. It's a blessing, but it is a curse.
So tell us about the film you're making. I sort of skipped over the shorts, which I didn't really mean to, but
No, 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 no. Yeah.
let's talk about the feature film you're making. Because
Yeah.
you
So,
earlier, a long time ago, you used the word stained, and I
yes, I
noticed
did.
that.
I
Yeah.
did. Well,
Yeah.
so the film is called Stains Be as Scarlet,
Hmm.
and it is a faith-based crime thriller. I'll go back to why things I call it the faith-based, and I'm currently consider myself a faith-based filmmaker. So my crime thriller right now is a faith-based crime thriller, and it's about a car wash cleaner in Southeast London who scrubs blood for local criminals, and he's pulled into a heist by an audacious cat burglar, and that's his one chance to get his baby cousin off the streets and break the cycle that's destroying his soul. So that's like the story behind it, and I feel that there is a huge reflection of myself in this protagonist because this protagonist who's a car wash cleaner has this is almost cursed with this OCD that he
Right.
can't rid of, and he's constantly out there trying to wipe clean stains of other criminals, which is essentially what I felt that I was maybe doing in my commercial work to
Right.
some of these corporations. So it is a very personal project, but it is also something that I'm very, very hopeful for. It involves a marketing plan that is not simply in the UK. It's a British film. It's certified by a British Film Institute, but I intend to market it also in the Asian regions because the cat burglar that I mentioned is from Asia. And we are currently in the stage of casting. So which is a process.
I see your marketing team is here with us today. FilmLink is here with us.
Oh, let's go. Yes, yes, sir. Yes. So, my team at FilmLink has been the biggest support that I've been having
Wow,
recently.
fabulous.
They always push me, push me from behind and push me in the right way without breaking me.
Right.
No, no, no. But
Nice, much nicer than me.
no, no. But yeah, so that's been the film. It's in the casting stage now. I'm teaming up with thanks to Joanne. I'm teaming up with a very very renowned casting director in the States, Ed Arenas, who is helping me to attach A-listers onto my film, which is an um, incredibly important process of um, garnering interest from investors and sort of pre-sale agents. And so, yeah, that's the journey of my film at the moment.
Fantastic. And I know one of the big things that we did was we worked on, you applied for the London tax credits,
I did,
which
yeah.
during your application process went up by quite a significant amount. I can't remember what it was, but
It was
it went
35 to it went up to 45.
to 45. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah.
So
That's been a very interesting process as well to participate in. And now that Ed just came off that film working with, oh my gosh, who's the actor?
Andy
What's
Garcia.
Andy Garcia.
Yeah.
He's been working on
A
a film with
legend.
Andy Garcia.
Yeah. Yeah. Can
We,
we
I
have
had
you
to,
on with them?
I had to let him rest for a little while after that. And so we'll get to work on your film now. But and I'm so excited about it. I personally love crime thrillers, and that's my favorite genre. But I think having a faith-based crime thriller is also great because often in a crime thriller, you will have a character, a main character, who comes to some sort of realization
Yes.
about their life as a criminal or about or you'll often see criminals go through some process of redemption where they end up saving somebody or that kind
Yeah.
of thing. So it's often there, sort of in some of the very usual tropes. Um, and then I love the image of the cleaning and, so on. So I just want
Yeah.
to check if anybody has a question for you before I just keep rattling on and on. Leo, do you have a question? So lovely to see you, Leo. No? Leo, just answer me this. Come down here and answer me this. 1 second. Was I ever that mean to you? No. Thank God, right? You're muted, but I can see you there. Good to see. You're muted, just so you know. You're muted. Your audio is muted.
There we are.
There we are. Oh, it's so good to hear your voice.
Oh,
So,
really?
so
Well, thank
I,
you
was
very much.
I was never that mean to you, right?
No, I don't recall that at all.
I
But
wasn't me.
we were never on a set together. I can imagine that would be hell. But yeah.
No, 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 no. I'm very, I have a fabulous story about, I went to one of my clients' sets. Everything looked fabulous, the location, the crew, that was the handsomest looking cast I'd ever seen. And they had hired this director very much against my advice, very much against my advice. So I'm meeting everybody. I met the director, and I go into the production office. They close the door. The producer, my client, and the producer of the film closed the door behind me. And the producer looked at me and said, "I am so sorry." I was like, "What?" And then they told me about the director and how terrible it was going and how awful it was. So I cooked up this plan. I said, "Look, I'm only here for the day. I'm going to play bad cop. You're going to play good cop."
Oh
Right.
boy.
So we called the director in, and I was sitting on a chair, and I started speaking to him. I just like in fact, I probably got quieter. And I said, "It seems that there are some problems. We need to change some things." And he stood up and towered over me. I don't, I don't do bullying. I don't do bullying. I said, "This is the way it's going to be. You're never going to direct a scene again by yourself. We have a co-director who's going to be directing scenes with you. You're never going to be late on set again. And if any of those things happen, I'm going to know straight away." And he was fired 2 days later.
Oh my gosh.
But I never raised my voice. And and I told my client, I said, "I'm going to play bad cop. I'm going to play this role." But yeah, I would never raise my voice in a situation like that. How's your filmmaking coming along, Leo?
It's good. I've moved quickly to different good positions. I'm currently working on 4 projects. I'm way over my head. Um, and I don't know what else to do except work every day. So
Exactly. And as long as it doesn't end up in fisticuffs, we're good.
yes. Right, right, right.
Lovely,
So
lovely to
yeah,
see.
things are coming along never fast enough, but I am so pleased to be in this industry, working at it with such great people, and some, a lot of jerks, but I'm getting better at saying you can go now, and yeah, so things are well. Things are well. I'm pleased.
Fabulous,
Miles
fabulous.
to go before I rest.
All right, good to see you. And Shigeto, is there anything that we missed that we didn't get to talk about that we should have talked about in our last 5 minutes?
I think what really, I think very quickly, I was, I was almost like in a I always imagine myself in like a lion inside of a cage that was kind of roaming around, telling the inmates that, if I get out of this jail, then if I go into the wild, I'm going to do this, I'm going to do that. And then there's a storm and the cage opened and I came out of the cage and then I got mauled. I had no idea how to hunt. I had no idea how to create my pride, all that. And I got destroyed in many good ways. And there I was for the first year or so of becoming that filmmaker transition. And I'm given that freedom that I had yearned for 20 years to have my voice. And I don't know what I'm doing because I don't know what I want to do. And I keep thinking about what should I say? What should I do? What should I write about? And it's going back to that whole superficial sort of vanity again. But then until I on a very, very fateful day, I got invited by my church to go to this conference where I heard this term digital evangelism, which is a thing where the creators from all over the world, entrepreneurs, AI entrepreneurs, all these pioneers were there talking about the future of digital evangelism. And that's when I really realized and recognized, right, well, that's a good authority. That's a good anchor
Uh-huh,
point for me.
uh-huh, uh-huh.
So I'm not going to go around going to make anything like Ben-Hur. That's not what I'm talking about. But although I think that's a great film, but
It's a great film.
it's a wonderful film. But I think for me, I realized that, you know what? I'm going to do whatever film that I make, there's going to be something related to my faith as a journey, whether losing faith, regaining faith, living the faith, it doesn't matter. But if I can use the film as a platform for me to pursue this digital evangelism, I think would be a wonderful, wonderful thing for me. And that gave me a true purpose as a film.
Yes.
So there you go, So let's go.
Go.
I feel free.
That's the Shigeto mantra.
That's right.
My mantra is we don't wait for anyone.
No, no, that's right. So we don't wait for anyone and let's go.
Let's go. Well, thank you so much for being here and being my guest. I think it's the first time that I've had a really, great in-depth conversation about the whole commercial world, the whole industry, and then the transition into being a filmmaker. That was really nice. Those are some great stories, Shigeto. Thank you so much.
Thank you for having me, Joanne. It's always a pleasure to see you.
Always a pleasure. We have so much fun.
We do, and we will. Best is yet to come.
Yes, yes, yes.
That's right.
And thank you, Emily. Thanks, Sarah, Jordan. Bye-bye, Leo. Take care. Bye.
Bye, everyone.